Hello everybody. In this video we'll try to understand some more interesting things about Hasta Nakshatra. So basically Hasta Nakshatra has the qualities of trickiness and deceitfulness, but at the same time they can make very flat gentle faces. They're very intelligent, at the same time they have they take enjoyment in trickery as well, and at the same time they cooperate without friendship, they cooperate without trust also. They are very good businessmen. They are, of course, to some extent they are service oriented as well, but they are very much business minded. And in the previous video we observed Hasta Nakshatra first pada. They are experts at underhanded activities, and of course mathematical, military and surgical skills they have. And the second pada people, if you observe, they are very much interested in material arrangement and perfection. Honesty and morality is very well developed in Hasta Nakshatra 2 compared to other padas of Hasta. So Hasta Nakshatra 2 is considered to be very genuine, honest and moral in all the Hasta padas. And Hasta Nakshatra third pada is mainly into business activities. They are merchants, traders, great business people. They have extraordinary intelligence, all mercurial qualities, extraordinary logical thinking. That's the perfect Mercury. And Hasta 4 is mainly about family and communal coexistence. And they believe in material security as well. And you can also see this particular pada promotes suspicion towards anything foreign, anything outside of their home. So that is the fundamental Hasta. And if you observe, Hasta people, they also like to repeat the things. They are called as handymen of the zodiac. They are into repeated activities, doing everything, doing the activities same time, same every day, kind of. They are into repetition, they are into punctuality, right? They are into timekeeping. This is Hasta energy, basically, right? And the professions of Hasta, if you observe, artisans, manual laborers, because manual laborers, they do the daily routine, repetition, right? Same thing every day, again and again. Even a businessman does the same. And all professions requiring some dexterity of hand, because Hasta energy people are good with their hands. Mechanics, jewelry makers, origami experts, acrobats, and circuit performers, anything repetition, right? And fairy tale writers, those involved in the invention and production of daily utility items, because the daily routine repetition is mainly related to Hasta. So wherever you see daily routine repetition, that is Hasta. And inventors in general, publishing and printing industry, stage magicians, because if you observe a stage magician, he performs the same magic on every stage. He goes to one college, performs the same magic, goes to one school, performs the same magic, goes to some other stage, performs the same magic again and again. When they involved, these people are involved in some kind of trickery also. So swindlers, pickpocketers, right? These are all also belong to Hasta energy only. When stockbrokers, packaging industry, because they do this kind of repeated activities. Paper industry, all people working in share and stock markets, because Hasta is mainly into the stock markets and all the stuff. And casino dealers, toy makers, carpenters, all handymen are related to Hasta basically. Professional gamblers, bookies. Bookies, they do repeated activities with some trickery, right? So that's where, you know, you can understand Hasta energy. Small shop owners, they every day they wake up and they open the shop at 9 o'clock. They sit in the shop till 9 o'clock in the at night. So there's a repeated activity. Repeated business activity is related to Hasta energy. So the market sellers, small scale trade persons, businessmen in all fields are related to Hasta. In which level Hasta is working can be predicted based on the other factors in the horoscope. Hasta can work in a lower level, a middle level, or higher level. You can see a small businessman, a middle earning businessman, and also a very great businessman related to Hasta energy. But based on the other factors in the horoscope, you can predict the person can become a great businessman or a normal businessman. Even clerks, bankers, accountants, typists. Accountant is another good example of Hasta energy, because accountants, they perform same calculations most of the times repeatedly, right, with some logical thinking, right? So this logical thinking, repetition, accounting, this is related to mercurial, pure mercurial energy. So that's where this Hasta energy is coming into the picture. And typists, cleaners, housekeepers, servants, doctors, physiotherapists, chemical and toiletry industry, textile industry, tarot card readers, palmists, psychics, astrologers. Because see, Hasta energy people are good in palm reading. They're also into this kind of extrapolation, astrological predictions. But the kind of predictions they make generally, that's very the flavor is different compared to a regular, compared to a. So if you see some person having lot of Scorpion energy, lot of 12th house energy, let us say, that person's intuition, based on intuition they can make predictions. But this Hasta people are not like that. They're kind of calculation, a kind of, how a businessman, when a businessman tries for prediction, let us say, the prediction quality of course would be good, but the flavor of prediction is something like, uh, it doesn't look divine. you know the astrology skills of Hasta people it does not look very divine. It's something like based on some formula, based on some logic, based on some theory, the predicting, that's it. It's not based on divinity or intuitiveness, right? It's not based on intuition. That's what I want to tell, right? So a palmist and astrologist you can find in Hasta energy people, the pottery, ceramic industry, interior decorators, gardeners, farmers and agriculturalists, all professions connected with food production, processing and distribution, they all involve a lot of repetition, right? So these Hasta people are good in all this. They can do anything, whichever is having some kind of repetition, some kind of logic, that's good enough for them. They do it. Barbers, hairdressers, stylists, sculptors, masons, those connected with amusement parks. So there are so many professions related to Hasta. Salespersons in all fields. That's why if somebody is having 10th house in Virgo and where this Hasta energy is activated, then you can say that person can do any activity. Any activity involving some repetition and some logic, good enough, the person can perform that one. That's it. He can perform that. So even professional comedians, because Hasta energy comedy is a bit different. They make some flat face, some gentle face, but still they can generate comedy. So the flavor of Hasta comedy is different. And even radio and television commentators, speech therapists, newsreaders, they have a lot of repetition. Every day they have to sit, they have to look the same way and read the news, whatever news is rolling out before the screen that they have. They just have to read read that news, right? So things involving some kind of technique, trickery. So this is all related to even some kind of forgeries, right? They can do, because that involves some kind of trickery, some kind of fraudness, right? Some kind of deceitfulness with some kind of logic. So they do it, right? So this is Hasta energy basically. And if you see the kind of places Hasta energy, uh, right, Hasta energy is present, that the places are agricultural fields, because repetition, lot of repetition is involved in agricultural fields. Even home gardens, art and craft studios, marketplace, stock exchange, casinos, betting shops, amusement parks, right? So there's a kind of light-hearted, some kind of light energy that involves some kind of trickery, the regular activity. That's where this Moon and Mercury amalgamation is, nicely happened. So it's not very, not very pressure taking, because Moon and Mercury is not very much pressure taking, not very much stress taking. It's something like it involves some kind of trick, some kind of fraudness, some kind of deceitfulness, or it whether it involves or not doesn't matter. It's they may try to take enjoyment in the regular activities also. They may want to do some kind of trick, some kind of small trick, small deceitfulness, right? Regular activity without any stress. Such kind of energy, right, is something like a person is typing, and then suddenly he wants to apply a small trick so that the work can be done easily, like that, that is also Hasta only. So this is all Hasta energy. That is how you can understand Hasta basically. And it is a Rajasic Nakshatra. Here, Hasta's immense immersion in worldly activities makes it a predominantly Rajasic Nakshatra. So, whatever this Hasta is purely into worldly activities, right? So that's why the worldly activities should be represented by Rajasic energy only, so Rajasic Nakshatra. It belongs to a fiery element, it's a fire element. So this classification is related with sun, the sun god associated with Hasta is Savitar, as we discussed. So because see, when a person is doing some activity repeatedly and then suddenly applying some logic, suddenly applying some kind of trick, fraudness, some kind of deceitfulness, this is all, it's a kind of fiery energy is involved in this. Okay, so that's where, um, so this quick thinking is also associated with Hasta. So it's an energetic approach only, so that's why it's a fire, it's related to fire element, and it's a godly nakshatra because Savitar is, it's Savitar, the deity of Hasta, is very benevolent in nature. So Hasta's divine quality can be judged from the fact that it never, harbors any strong negative or cruel tendencies. Not very cruel. See, the person is not interested in killing somebody or hurting somebody, hurting in the sense physically, I want to say, but they just want to involve in a small a small trick, right? So that may not damage a person's life a lot, but they make enjoyment in this tricks and all this stuff. So it's not very much into cruel tendencies. So it's so, you can say it's a godly nakshatra. So it's a level nakshatra because the business aspect of Hasta, you know, because see, any nakshatra, if you say any nakshatra, if it is good for business, that's a balanced nakshatra, that's a level nakshatra only, right? Because only level nakshatras can perform business very nicely. That's a fundamental thing, because if you want to do good business, you should be very, very, you know, balanced in your approach. So this nakshatra is very good in patching things up. They enjoy in applying tricks. That the trick can be a positive trick or a negative trick. You know, that is their behavior generally. Even they like a little bit of fraudness also, a little bit of deceitfulness also they enjoy, because that's where the logic or something comes out. It can be positive or negative, but it's not very extreme, right? So it's a swift nakshatra basically. That's where, um, even the humorous side of humorous and light-hearted nature of Hasta seems to be an amalgamation of Moon and Mercury, right? So the quickness, the swiftness, right? So that is Hasta basically. You can feel that way the Hasta's energy. And Hasta is related to the first 9 days of the lunar month of Chaitra Masa, the lunar month of Chaitra. So it falls in late March generally. So Hasta is also related to Dwadashi, the 12th Tidhi of the waxing and waning phases of the moon's monthly cycle. So, so what are all the auspicious activities you can perform on the day of Hasta? It's good for most activities done under the sun, arts and crafts, activities that stimulate laughter, all types of hobbies, especially things like pottery, jewelry making, the repeated activities, right? The handyman activities, so even planting seeds, gardening, domestic work, studying sciences and astrology, learning languages, all activities requiring hand skills and repetition. Magic tricks, playing games, all business activities requiring kind of some tact, right? Some kind of shrewdness, good for marriage, buying and selling, and it is also good, especially uh, you know anything which is having some kind of repetition is good for bargaining. It's good for dealing with children, uh, right? Any kind of treatments of diseases, and travel and change of residence also it's good. And basically, if you see what are all the activities that are inauspicious on the day of Hasta: planning long term goals and objectives, sexual activity, yeah, it does not support relaxation or inactivity, because it's a kind of, it needs that logic, that kind of some activity, some repetition, and suddenly some logic, some trick. That's the energy. It's unfavorable for all activities requiring executive ability and maturity, and it's not good for most nighttime activities. It is not at all good, because Savitur is a sun god, and he promotes all the activities that we do on the daytime, the general worldly duties and all the stuff, the general duties, you know. So if you see the main planetary influences affecting this nakshatra are Moon and Mercury. So Moon is the main ruling deity of Hasta, and Moon is mainly related to this kind of emotions, care, and sensitivity to this nakshatra. And because of this lunar influence, because of this moon's influence, this particular moon's influence is actually making Hasta, you know, is very much related to this family life and all the stuff. And when working through its lower functioning, all the negative aspects of lunar energy are manifested. What are all the lower functioning of this particular moon activities? You know, so the lower energy of moon is mainly manifested as fickle mindedness, right? And also bigotry, excessive excessive attachment, and inability to let go, takes to let go of the things, right? And very very conservativeness, very ultra conservativeness, you can say. So that's how, when moon is not having, you know the negative aspects of lunar energy, we say, because moon represents your mind, and also, you know this is also related, moon is related to your emotions also to some extent. So excessive attachment is also because of the negative impact of lunar energy, the moon's energy. So even inability to let go of the things, that is also a negative effect of lunar energy. See, however, unlike Cancer, the lunar nature here is under supervision of Mercury, right? Because here mercurial energy is playing a vital role. Even though Hasta is a moon's nakshatra, the controlling factor is in the hands of Mercury, right? So Mercury is the sign lord. So Mercury takes the control here, and Mercury is the planet of discrimination. So Mercury's influence makes Hasta jovial and light-hearted. So it is saving it from the type of depression people with prominent cancer placements go through. So when you talk about cancer, you talk about emotional imbalances, you talk about depression, because cancer, the moon related problems, they have, right? So but Mercury is making this nakshatra jovial and light-hearted. So Mercury is controlling the negative impacts of moon for Hasta Nakshatra. In that way, it's a very good sign for Hasta Nakshatra, right? So Hasta's discriminatory power also allows it to navigate its way through the waters of life more efficiently, right? Compared to Aslesha, you take Aslesha. Aslesha is a mercurial nakshatra, but who is taking the more control there? Moon, because it is in the sign of Cancer. So Aslesha people, the kind of emotional imbalances and emotional turmoil they go through, even Punarvasu 4 and Pushyami also to some extent, and Aslesha people, they go a lot of emotional imbalances because of more moon's dominance there. Even though their individual planetary rulers, like for Punarvasu 4 it is Jupiter, and for Pushyam it is Saturn, and for Aslesha it is Mercury. But even though they have these qualities, right? But finally, who is taking the dominance? The Cancer owner, that's Moon. But in the case of Hasta, Moon has some say here. Moon is, of course, going to make them a bit depressed, making them a bit fickle minded, uh, not letting go of the things and all the stuff. But here, as Mercury is taking the more control, finally it is making the person jovial and light-hearted. So there is a balance in this nakshatra. Even though they have some depression, finally they become jovial only because of the mercurial uh, dominance. And Aslesha and Hasta, you know, we discuss, whenever you discuss Hasta, you discuss Aslesha. When you discuss Aslesha, we discuss Hasta generally, because you can know the difference between the nakshatras based on, the Aslesha's ruler is Mercury, but the dominating factor is Moon because it is in the sign of Cancer. Whereas for Hasta, the planetary ruler is of course Moon, but the dominance is with Mercury because it is in the sign of Virgo, and Virgo's ruler is Mercury. So the difference, when you understand the difference, then you can get to know, right, which dominance is actually beneficial, right? So Aslesha and Hasta are the only two nakshatras where the energies of Moon and Mercury combine. So the only difference being that Moon is the king in Aslesha, while Mercury has the final say in Hasta. So this means that, what it means basically, intellect rules over the mind in Hasta, which is obviously the way universe prefers it. When your emotions are controlling you and finally you're going somewhere in your life, then where you will go ultimately? You feel very, very depressed. But Moon can perceive but not derive conclusions, right? So, but Mercury can do it. Mercury is something like intellect. Mercury, see, you would be happy if your intellect rules you, not your emotions, right? So Asta people would be much more happier than Aslesha finally, even though Hasta also have some kind of turbulences, but Hasta people would be happier because here Mercury is dominating. right? The intellect is dominating the emotions. That's good, and that's how universe also prefers that. So it is Mercury which guides the moon, while it is moon which nurtures Mercury. So Hasta is all about this interplay between moon and Mercury, right? And if you observe the sexual symbol, sexual animal of Hasta, it's buffalo. So despite its skill with hands and fingers, its sexual tendencies are usually not very refined. A lot of sexual exploitation takes place for making money under the energies of this nakshatra. So it's, of course, it's not prone to extreme sexual perversions like other cruel or fierce nakshatras, but when it is working through, its regular level, Hasta can be the most non-sexual among all the nakshatras. You know, so its sexual energies are most compatible with those of Swati nakshatra. So Hasta is never treated as a very great sexual nakshatra. It's a normal one, uh, right? It can be non-sexual. Generally, people say. So Hasta is only the main main thing related with Hasta is it's the handyman of the universe, handyman of the zodiac, and even esoteric things are nothing but exoteric when uh, you know it's something like it's 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 just handyman of the zodiac, you can say. And Hasta takes care of all little things which actually see, um, even in the universal plane, or in the house level or material plane, wherever you see the little things that actually make the civilized society, make the things running better. See, you're living in your house, so why, how it is possible? Because of the little things only, little repetitive things, that those are related to handyman related things. Generally the plumbing, the kind of washrooms we use, fans, these are all the repeated things, right? The things that involve a lot of repetition, they are making your life better, they are making your life happier, basically, uh, life much more civilized, right? So that is Hasta, I want to tell. Even to for the whole universe to run, these little things would be responsible, and because of the Hasta energy only, in the universe all these little things, the handyman kind of things are possible, and the universe is running fine, right? And so you can understand the kind of efforts of Hasta are a kind of overlooked. Generally, we don't actually recognize all these things, right? Because they are required. It's something like sun is coming every day in the morning. Because of that only life is happening on the earth, but we don't recognize it. We don't recognize on everyday basis, but sun god is making the life possible here, right? So this is the fact, right? But Hasta is very much related to that, the daily activities. Hasta's contribution is overlooked, but it is playing a vital role. See, when you try to talk about Hasta, you talk about Mercury, Moon, but we generally also talk about Rahu's influence here, because Hasta is mainly related to that magic, trickery, fraudness, right? That little fraudulence which may not very much hurt the people. So Hasta is partly the secret behind the devious and the mischievous, all knowing smile on the face of Vishnu. So that kind of thing is required for the world to run, right? For the world to get better also. It's a maintaining activity. Vishnu is also related to maintaining the things, right? So Hasta is one of the few nakshatras which has the ability to see the whole of creation as a play, and it can find enjoyment, right? It even can have that little laugh. So Hasta's energy should not be ignored. At the same time, it is required. And we will try to talk about this Hasta energy in much more, some more interesting things we can talk about in other video as well. But when you talk more and more about Hasta, you listen to these things only, right? Whatever flavor you got till now with our discussion, the same flavor you would get with even if you talk much about it. See, the story of Virgin Mary, if you observe, it finds its parallels in all ancient cultures and civilizations. It's all about the, which energies which come under Hasta's domain only. See, Hasta is representative of the inner sun, which has the ability to hold, produce, and foster the divine savior, right? So it has the ability to hold, produce, and foster, because the little things that you're thinking, right? They only really they are saving the civilization. They are the saviors of your house also. And you know Hasta is the 13th nakshatra, right? This 13 is the number which it is very common knowledge that 13 is a peculiar number, right? It is very much associated with occult sciences. Of course, it is associated with endings, death, regeneration also. See, the concept of order and renewal inherent in Hasta can be understood best through this peculiar quality only, right? See, for example, see many things which happen to us in childhood are for a specific reason, which those things we only come to know about much later in life, right? Even for evolved souls, most events which happen in their childhood are silently building up a foundation and preparing for their purpose and destiny. Even if you observe great people and great minds, they also do not recognize that their childhood activities are actually building up some kind of inherent abilities in them, and they are shown up when they are adults and they are getting that fame and everything. Hasta is like that in the universe. Hasta is something like, you know, the little things that we don't recognize in the universe, the little things that we don't recognize in our house, the repeated things, the regular things which are making the life very happy in our house. That is Hasta's energy. Of course, they involve a kind of pleasantness with some tricks. Anywhere, if you find some kind of pleasantness with tricks, that is Hasta only. See, it is usually very hard to understand the significance of these little seemingly meaningless, disconnected things, right? Until when you really recognize them, when you really put some brain on it, then you can understand. So the secret functioning, all these having some secret functioning, but they make up life. So, and one more important thing is this particular nakshatra is related to sage Pulahu. Pulahu is one of the seven celestial sages who are looking after our galaxy, affairs of our galaxy, and Pulahu means connector of space. So you can imagine that connecting space must be quite a detailed oriented job, right? So it is also very interesting that it is time which is the connector of space. So Hasta is directly connected with the passage of time through its potter wheel symbolism. So Hasta is represented by a potter wheel. We discussed that in our beginning videos. And that potter wheel is the representation of time, and Hasta is very much into this timekeeping and punctuality, because repeated activities. See, when a let us say person, a lecturer is going to college every day in the morning at 9 o'clock and leaving the college every day in the evening 5 o'clock. This repetition is Hasta's energy, and this repetition involves punctuality as well, timekeeping as well. So that is Hasta, and that is making the life of the lecturer possible. If he does not go to the college every day in the morning at 9 o'clock and leaving the college at 5 o'clock, his life may not happen. He would not get salary. So this little thing is very, very important. But we generally, even the person ignores it. He thinks telling lecturer and everything is giving his salary, and even telling the lecturer and these things also, of course, giving the lecture and all these things are actually making money. That is also a kind of repeated thing only. So this repetition involving some skill or trickery is Hasta, and that is making up the universe, the life of an individual person on a material plane, or in this, you take any plane. This is required, right? And one can strengthen the this particular um, qualities of Hasta by worshipping the sun, and worship of Vishnu, of any of Vishnu's incarnations, is a way of getting in touch with the higher energies of this nakshatra. And repetition of the mantra Om Jham or Om Niyam 108 times a day is good to get out of the negative impacts of this particular nakshatra. And when moon is transiting Hasta nakshatra, if you chant Om Jham or Om Nyam, it's very good to get out of the malefic effects of Hasta. And even the people who are having some benefic planets in Hasta can also chant this and get some good benefits out of this, and increase the benefits out of the positive Hasta they have. And it's very helpful for the benefic Hasta people to wear all lighter shades, especially green, because green is related to Mercury. White is of course also good, as moon is having some say here, and generally it's better if they avoid bright shades, and better they use the directions and the days of Hasta, right? And Vivekananda, the famous Indian saint who made waves in the West by introducing Vedanta philosophy in the West side, right, has his moon placed in Hasta only, in the 10th house. So this placement definitely made him crafty. Hasta is crafty in nature, right? With his speech, basically. So, and he combined a kind of wit, a kind of humor, a kind of sarcasm. These are all mercurial qualities to actually, you know, uh, get the audience's attention across America and Europe. And even back in India, he preached a very Hasta doctrine of working hard on a material level. That's a fundamental Hasta. And according to Varahamihira, Moon Hasta makes a native energetic, daring, merciless, a drunkard, and a thief as well. Because uh, drinking also is a kind of repetition with some kind of uh, negativeness involved, right? And so this is about Hasta energy, Moon and Mercury amalgamation, where Mercury takes the dominance. That is Hasta. Thanks for watching this video. In our future videos, we'll try to discuss the next nakshatra, that is Chitra Nakshatra. Thank you for watching this video.